Welcome to 𝗂𝗏𝘁 Spotlight. I'm your host, Brittany Borer. In today's episode, we're going to dive into specialty foods, from key trends to industry drivers and more. To get the scoop, let's bring in our guest for today, Leana Salamah. She is the Senior Vice President of Marketing for the Specialty Food Association. Leana, thank you for joining me today.
Of course, Brittany. Thanks so much for having me.
So can you tell me what buyers are looking for this year in specialty foods in the context of trends and flavors?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is really a really great time to be in the specialty food industry. There was a time when specialty food was almost its own category and kind of had a standalone role, on retailer shelves. And these days, specialty has really hit mainstream. So you see specialty actually integrated into every category individually. So as a lot of general trends go, so go the specialty food trends. So for example, we're seeing a lot right now with consumers snacking more, a lot of grab and go, a lot of convenience, and a lot of more small bites, and even kind of healthy indulgences, if you will. So we're seeing a lot of really interesting things happening in snacking, with people coming up with very interesting flavors and textures, but all around this idea of kind of smaller bite, grab and go, convenience driven consumers. The other thing we see quite a bit of is just the proliferation of global flavors. So we have our annual Summer Fancy Food Show coming up here in June, and we are seeing close to 60 countries that are going to be joining us and coming out with all manner of global flavors that consumers are, really craving. All of these different pieces of authenticity from around the world that they can bring into their homes. And the last piece that I'll say is related to something that's very near and dear to my heart, which is a whole trend around heat and spice, especially when it's married with some kind of sweetness attached to it. And speaking of heat and our summer show, we have a very exciting session that we're going to be holding with the folks from Heatonist. And if you're not familiar with Heatonist, they are the hot sauce provider for the viral sensation that is Hot Ones, where you have different celebrities working their way through various levels of heat on chicken wings and trying to hold a conversation at the same time. So we think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Now we're halfway through 2024. What should specialty food manufacturers be focused on, whether that's budget, supply chain? Can you expand on that?
Sure. There's a lot going on in the industry right now that our folks need to be paying attention to. One of the big things we see is, what is happening with inflation and costs, and specifically related to how the retailers need to respond to what's been, a few years of inflation here with higher margins than maybe there have been in the past. A lot of retailers are struggling with maintaining those margins and need to start to bring them down again. The great news is that specialty food is inherently a higher margin product, a higher margin category, if you will. So specialty foods can help the retailers with that a little bit, but definitely need to be trumpeting that message out to the folks that they're talking to about the margin potential of their products. The other thing that I would just put out is there is an absolute explosion in private label right now. So a lot of the retailers out there, and this may be in part to fight, some of the costs rising, is folks going into private label. And so we're looking at our manufacturers and talking to them about it, both in terms of learning how to compete with private label, but also to think about how they can become a provider of private label for some of the buyers out there.
And what is driving the proliferation of new product launches in recent years?
I think a lot of it just has to do with all of the opportunity that's out there in the marketplace. There are all of these different communities that are helping specialty food makers bring their products to market in a really efficient and effective way. What I love about specialty food is that it always seems to come from a place of real passion and joy. When somebody creates a gluten-free product, or they create a vegan product, they're not doing it because market research told them that they needed to get into that particular segment. They're doing it because somewhere in their life, someone in their life probably needed that, and they wanted them to experience the same joy of a product that maybe had gluten in it, but they wanted to be able to experience it for someone who has to be gluten-free. So all of these stories and all of these kind of, background pieces that our makers come from, I think has always created a groundswell of ideas that have been out there. But what's really great right now is that it's easier than ever to bring those ideas to life, because you have such a great support system in the specialty food ecosystem to help the average person who just has a great idea or a great recipe bring that idea to market.
And finally, we are coming up on the 68th annual Summer Fancy Food Show. And can you tell us what to expect from this year that sets this show apart from prior years?
Absolutely. It's going to be a fantastic show. I really can't wait. So we're taking place at the end of June here in New York City at the Javits Center. And we will have about 330,000 square feet, about 2,100 different exhibitors from, again, as I mentioned, 60 or so countries around the world. But some of the things we're doing differently this year include a whole area of the show floor, which is actually going to encompass 2 halls, Hall D and E, that we're calling Debut District. And this area is dedicated entirely to either companies that are new to the Fancy Food Show, so they've never been on display here before, to our incubator communities, which again are one of those great resources helping people bring their ideas to market, and even established brands who are bringing new products to market. So it's really just going to be this hotspot of nothing but new and innovation, and we're really, really excited to get people engaged in that. We are also, every summer, we celebrate our 𝗖𝗶𝗵 Award winners. And this time around, we are actually going to do it up a little bit. We're going to put it in lights and hold an entire awards gala where all of the food will be based on our 𝗖𝗶𝗵 winners. And people can come in, experience all of these great products, and also network with the folks who brought them to life.
And it sounds like SFA has a great show to put on this summer. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. So Leana Salamah, Senior Vice President of Marketing for Specialty Food Association, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, Brittany. Thanks again for having me.
And as always, you can check out more of the great content from the Food Institute by clicking on this playlist. Until next time, I'm Brittany Borer.